say, big sleepy faces, that means that the lunch was good, I suppose. It is traditional Viennese lunch, so I hope that it was good. For me, it was. Like we from Serbia, we do tend to love Austrian kitchen, so and we have our kitchen as well, very good. My name is Alexander. I'm going to be the host of the second part of the this day. We're going to listen in the next couple of hours, like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We're going to listen something that is called part of disruptive AI, and I cannot imagine the better introduction to disruptive AI than to listen to the keynote delivered by Iveta. Lohovska, and basically the talk is going to be about ChatGPT and beyond, like I said, disruptive, and how generative AI is changing the way people interact with computers. Before I can invite Iveta to join us and to give her a round of applause, I'll just ask our technician to respond to the video. Okay, somebody want to dance? Joking, of course. We can switch to the presentation, and I would like to, with a big round of applause, to welcome Iveta Lohovska to the stage. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining after the lunch. I also enjoyed the lunch very much, and I hope I do not fall asleep throughout my presentation. Okay, so my name is Iveta Lohovska, and I'm a principal data scientist and lead AI architect within Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, for some of you might be something. We are doing very cool HPC architectures, AI solutions. I know we are not very popular in this space, but we're also not very good at marketing. That's the reason. Otherwise, we do really cool stuff. What I'll be talking today about is just a high-level view of how disruptive the current LLM and generative AI trends are. Through my work, through my perspective, my work is being a hands-on person traveling around the globe, helping customers either with developing AI models or deploying them. And most of the time, there's a huge component in terms of at the edge, hardware scalability that needs to be addressed. So this is the perspective where I come from. I think it's not working. Yeah? Nice. ChatGPT didn't advance that much. Yes. Okay. So starting from a 1,000 meters footprint of what the current trends are and what is impacting them. And it's not AI. AI is very old. We all know here that it's more than 50 years. The algorithms there, they didn't change that much. It's mainly the massive data growth that you can train the algorithms on. The large models, basically the field of neural networks, that they become more complex and more difficult to be explained. And of course, new algorithms, so the generative AI field itself that's able to create new and novel content. So those are some of the new trends that are basically enabling the overall disruption in this space. HPC is the short term for high performance compute. I can honestly say AI and what we see under ChatGPT right now or any other large language model wouldn't be possible without high performance compute. So basically, the amount of money and compute you're pouring into a solution to actually work and constantly iterate and fine-tune the newest results and outputs. Okay, so a summary, this list can be very long. Marketing, content, chatbots, that's the standard thing, it's nothing new for us. But the further down you go on the list of what are the current use cases in this space and what actually AI can be used for, the more interesting it becomes. So you can use it for drug design, using entropical techniques to actually iterate on different combinations, on different permutations, and come up with new drug insights, and shorten the trial and pre-trial phase of researchers and how they actually innovate in this space. Chip design, we all know about the geopolitical issues. This is another area where ChatGPT has been deployed recently, and the alternatives to ChatGPT. Material science, I think this is one of the coolest areas. I'm extremely excited about this one because we need new materials and new alternative sources to power our batteries and our light and our solar panels and everything around that. Those are generally areas you would not think in the space of generative AI. Synthetic data, we had a great presentation from Mostly AI. I don't know if they're still here, but this is another area where if you have a use case with healthcare or finance, you can use generative AI to generate synthetic data and mimic the behavior of a real sample data set. Personalized therapy, precision medicine is becoming more and more popular, and this will be, if you have the chance to pick a field in the future, because I see many young faces and people in data science and data engineering, I would definitely consider that field. And explaining complex algorithms. So the more we advance, the more examples we give to this field, the more powerful they become to actually give us explanation of what is going on. Most of the time, that explanations that human can do. So this is a snapshot of the models that we see, and I still don't think it's working. Or I'm not doing it correctly. No. I can click from the laptop if you want. Okay, perfect. So to get on the basic, I am sure you all know this. And the interesting part is not what AI is or what the exact definition of AI is. It's not about what artificial narrow intelligence is and what general intelligence is. I'm sure that most of you have been exposed to those definitions already. For those of you who are not exposed, the narrow intelligence is everything to do with one task, tasking AI, to be a chatbot, to do the web search for you. And generative AI is the area where it starts to behave like human. It starts to reason, it starts to have consciousness, to have common sense, because we know common sense is not so common, so it leads to our common sense. All of those human behaviors that we take by default, but are very difficult to be translated into the machines. So why it's interesting and why I'm giving you this definition, because I'm sure that most of you know it. Because when we talk about ChatGPT, when we listen to all the podcasts in the world right now, there is no clear definition if ChatGPT is either narrow intelligence or general intelligence. Some people have the intention to say, okay, it's general intelligence. My personal opinion, it's not. But just the fact that we cannot come to a common agreement if the most recent tools in this space are either narrow intelligence or general intelligence, and they are not able to put them into category, for me is extremely interesting and disruptive. Because we keep setting up Turing Awards competitions, students competitions, science competitions, and AI is constantly beating them, and then we are adding another category and another task that it needs to overcome, and it does, and we are still not happy that this is general intelligence. So there's some consensus to be done there. Can we move on the next slide? So, sorry, one back. Yeah. So then we start hearing super intelligence, because we weren't happy with actually AI being able to create novel content. We are not happy that AI is already exposing common sense, and we keep saying it's not general intelligence. Now we're raising the bar and saying, okay, now our definition for intelligence is being super intelligent. And this is everything done by the human, but better. And these are our new definitions of what AI, particularly ChatGPT, because I haven't seen something more advanced than that, a task to do. Okay. Now when we know what the common definitions are and that the broader scientific community doesn't have a consensus where ChatGPT falls, either the narrow one or the generative one, let's take a look at some of the examples, and I will briefly comment on this image. So there are millions of models coming out, ChatGPT-4, the most advanced one, DALL-E, Whisper, also coming from OpenAI, Bird, Jasper, Llama, my favorite one. It can be deployed on a mobile station, on a computer, on a phone, performs very nicely. Fleeky, simulating code. I hate writing code, I'm not good in that. So anything that can produce a code for me is my most favorite tool. The list goes on and on because they keep popping up and they become more and more powerful and more deployable in different contexts that resolve different problems. So what is uniting them and what are the most common trends? And I keep trying to follow up with the trends, it's impossible. But I think those are the highlights. The fact that Bill Gates calls it the moment of the internet, I find significant. Also the fact that he is commercially incentivized all that. So Microsoft is investing in OpenAI. So making this big is also in his own interest. But by knowing the performance of ChatGPT and the current trends and disruptions, I would say there is a small piece of truth in what he's saying. When I see where all the VC funds are, where the startups are going, there is a huge moment of innovation happening, and I couldn't think of a different moment than actually the moment of the internet. An artwork made by AI. So the image you see on the background was created by Midjourney, an artist in the US who won an art competition and created this huge debate in the art community because arts spend their days and lives and trying to be super creative and appreciated, and comes a nerdy person who runs it through Midjourney and wins the competition. And this just happened last week on another level in Berlin. There's a huge Sony competition for photography, and another AI model won the competition most recently this week. So design and creative fields will be hugely disrupted. Banning such kind of models from universities is another area. I don't know why they're trying to ban it, they cannot really stop it, but just the naive effort to try to block it I find cute, and they will not be able to stop it, but it's a trend that we will see in front of our eyes and how it will evolve. The AI Act coming from the European Union. I'm a European by heart. I support everything in relation to data privacy and data security. Let's see how this rolls out. We try to make a statement based in Europe that this is the area where we're trying to regulate something and make it safely and easily for humans to use, but also fairly for humans. So this is to be seen. Just the reason I have it here is that we are the most advanced as European Union in the area of trying to regulate AI. I hope it doesn't block innovation, but I definitely see reasons, and I'll move to the AI ethics at the end of my presentation. The AI ethical principles, I have a separate slide on that. I'm part of the OECD board for AI ethics, as well as Microsoft, that recently fired the AI ethics board. But what we are trying to do here is unite global organizations like the different governments, the World Banks of the world, OECD, and the top most disruptive innovation companies, and try to align of what AI ethics is first as a definition and what are the principles under it. And I will show you a slide on that. And then the last one is the pause on AI experiments. I think this is a symbolic letter. Also, personal statement, I don't think it's a good thing, and I don't think also that it's possible. And it also impacts a very few companies that have the resources to actually innovate in this space. So it's a nice try. I understand the reasons. I just don't think it's possible and relevant at all, but people want to be on the record that they have tried to stop the development of AI. So those are more or less the summary of millions of news and disruptions that just happened in the last 2 or 3 months. And they're so big in significance for the AI world that it's, for even AI professionals like me, it's very difficult to keep up. Okay. So enough about the trends, the models, how disruptive this area is. Those are my top tools from the millions of tools that emerge in the generative AI space. AI code translator, I will share with you the papers and the link behind this, but this tool, I know it exists in different, there are millions of libraries doing this in a not such a user-friendly way. They don't cover all possible languages. Through Reddit, you can go over and over papers and ideas of how this needs to be done, but in such a user-friendly way, covering the top 80 languages, the code-to-code translation in both directions, I find extremely cool, and also it wiped 4 years of my education, basically. I have spent years at TU Wien and TU Zurich to try to learn all of this stuff, and now it takes me 5 seconds. So that's another disruption that we could think to consider. And my biggest takeaway from this presentation for you would be go into prompt engineering. I think it would be the next data science. Okay, next slide. So my friends from Etihad Zurich, it's another super cool tool. Even though I don't think it's for everyone, it's the LMQL. It's a Python-based language for prompt engineering, because they call prompt engineering a programming, which I slightly disagree with. I think prompt engineering is already targeting people who cannot program but can interact with AI. This goes on a deeper level to understand how prompt engineering and prompt injections work, but I think this will be similar of a magnitude to Python. It's a European-based tool, and will be the entry door for interacting with a variety of LLMs. So basically, you can connect to any possible generative AI model, doesn't matter if it's PaLM, Llama, ChatGPT, Aleph Alpha, Luminous, whatever the language is, and apply your own query through this kind of language. So I highly advise you check it out. It's still in the R&D phase. Okay, so those are rolling slides, so please bear with me. Because it's supposed to be a disruptive presentation, I want to tease you a bit. So what is this on the picture? Any guesses? Sorry?
Synthetic faces. These people do not exist.
One try, other tries. Sorry? Try. I mean, it should be AI related if my presentation is on AI. No? Okay, so what is the future of generative AI and where are we going with this? It's our world in data. Maybe you know the Swedish guys that do super interesting analytics with open data. They have just taken a snapshot of the performance of AI-generated images through the years. So this is the progress so far. Nothing new for you. I'm sure you've all been exposed to artificially created images through prompts or just a simulation. Doesn't matter how advanced the technique is. Can you click on the next one? So this is a timeline of images generated by AI. So if this is a timeline of images generated by AI, then what is this? And now I really want guesses. Yeah, that's close. Amazing, yes. So if you look at this, you'll think those are AI-generated images. Yes, but how? Can you click on the next one? This is high-resolution image reconstruction with latest diffusion models. You sit under the MRI machine, you see an image, those 4 images, you think of them, and then they're scanning your brain and they reconstruct what you have seen through the reaction of the signals. And the output you see at the end is the models guessing what you have seen in the MRI machine. First, my technical approaches, this paper is super funky. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, I'm not an MRI machine expert, but even if 20% of this approach is already there, and they have somehow tweaked it to basically read your mind, it's literally that. The diffusion models are reading, decoding, and encoding what you have seen and blinked and how your neurons have reacted on, I find amazing. And from technical perspective, I think huge achievement, huge disruption. From surveillance and democracy perspective, not so sure how we go with that. But I find this state of the art and extremely cool, and we will see a lot coming out of it. I said I would go back to the AI ethical principles. So the principles are 5. Privacy and secured, human-focused, inclusive, responsible, robust. You will see them across the top companies, across the top organizations, maybe worded a bit differently, maybe given a different explanation or perspective, but those are the AI ethical principles of the most popular, most advanced organizations. And what they tend to do is to try to prevent bias. We heard already about that. To be trust-focused, to be robust in a software way, so that you can go and penetrate the models and the environment, and to be transparent. Basically, that you don't have a ChatGPT like black box where you don't know, is the model so powerful, is the data so big, is the compute so expensive that they're making this magic. You actually can go and know what has happened there, and if you can use it for healthcare or finance or your enterprise. So I definitely think this area needs to be pushed. We need to be more engaged because, as mentioned from the mostly AI people, the problem is not technical. The problem has 3 angles in my perspective. It has legal, regulatory, technical, and societal perspective. And we as a technician have the easiest one, so I would say. But definitely something that we need to keep in mind, especially based in Europe, and trying to be responsible. And as a closing note, just on where AI is going, and with the most advanced fields of generative AI now and all the hype, I have my own perspective on AI, and I think it's just a period of transformation. You can call it linear algebra, you can call it big data, you can call it the internet, you can call it the discovery of the electricity, or the industrial disruption and age. But it's just a period of how our lives changes. And I have one question. Do you know what this timeline represents? Any guesses? That's very high level theoretical, but in the year of 800, for 1 hour of reading light, we had to work 6 hours. Then the 950 came and we discovered electricity. And you had to work during your labor day 8 seconds to produce 1 hour of reading light through electricity. The most recent math behind how much we actually work during our day is less than a second to produce 1 hour of reading light. So moving from a labor of 6 hours, and we all work 6 hours here, we know it's not pleasant, just to earn 1 hour of reading light, and moving to less than a second where you even don't blink is a huge disruption, and it just shows the perspective of how our life changes. So what about the last one? Do you think you have to work at all to produce your light? This is research coming from Singapore. I was in a lab where they integrated the DNA from a jellyfish into the DNA of a mammal, in this case the mouse. And what they're currently experimenting is that your spouse, your wife or husband will be your next source of light. So you touch your partner sleeping next to you and they glow. And you don't have to work anymore. It's literally where we are now. And if you think this is rocket science and it's futuristic, it's not. It is already happening. So, good for us if we don't have to work for reading light anymore, but there are some real consideration and ethical questions we have to pose to the society and where we are going if we want to be included. And also, start being prompt engineers. So, those are my 2 takeaways. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. Okay. We have questions. So you just pass it.
And yes, I have the contacts to the lab if you want to make your spouse glow. I can provide.
Thank you for the interesting talk. I think in the second or third slide you were mentioning how to differentiate between different type of AI models.
Yeah.
Is there a quantitative approach already to that? Are there any research papers where they somehow come up with a quantitative way, like 3 or 4 or 5 KPIs, like if the value supersedes this threshold, then you can go on it like this category?
So I think we had a couple of, so first there is no paper because there is no universal agreement on what this is. The Americans say, okay, it's the Turing award, so if this passes biological computational competition, then it's already a generative AI. And it keeps passing all of those, and then the arguments, but it does it only in English, it cannot do it in German, it cannot do it in Italian. Maybe we need to raise the bar. So that's the reason I'm saying it. If you listen to them, there's no common agreement or no unified way to categorize that. And different people are abusing the statement based on their interest. So OpenAI will say, yeah, we are generative AI company, means ChatGPT is already generative AI, but other companies will question that. So I haven't seen a common agreement on that.
Some additional question, perhaps? Okay, I have one question regarding ChatGPT, and you're thinking, how do you think? I would like to connect sustainability and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
How do you think that is, in terms of energy consumption, is responsible to create such a model that can produce such a value, but on the other hand, they are consuming so much energy? What do you think that there should be some kind of like balance? What's your thought about this kind of thing?
So actually it's big. Following the generative AI trends, equally there's a big growth on sustainability currently going on, either in investment, in startups, in topics, all the climate people are pushing it. So there are 2 topics, it's sustainable AI and AI for sustainability. Sustainable AI is actually the compute, the carbon footprint, the ESGs, and AI for sustainability is all the projects where you're using the AI for making an impact. What I think will happen is AI compute is currently will overtake aviation industry in terms of the carbon footprint. If you look at the numbers, it's so big that, and exponential that if we continue this way, it's just not going to work. So a couple of areas. ESG monitoring, so trying to give some numbers and raise some flags. This is one area. The second one is making the models mobile. And so if you think, which is the company we haven't heard from anything around generative AI recently, but we know it's extremely powerful? Apple. So we hear Google, we hear Meta, we hear Microsoft, NVIDIA, IBM, and so on going down the road. We haven't heard anything from Apple, and they're the masters of deploying AI models at the edge, on the computer, on the watch, on the phone, on everything. So there's a huge speculation that they're working on exactly this. So shrinking the carbon footprint, shrinking the model, but keeping the performance. And they're the most innovative in this space. So I think they will be also coming out with something around sustainable AI in terms of the carbon footprint and the size of the models and the compute that it needs to go into very small devices.
To switch it up, yeah, I think it's very interesting what you just said, because what I've also been learning, and I'm a physician by physicist by the vocational training, and basically the nature is tending to go toward simplicity. That means not 9 trillion parameters to just have some normal sentence and answer, but it's tending to have so much smaller energy. And I was reading about that energy consumption of the body for the whole day or the hour. I don't know like what is the difference, but it's 20 watts basically for the whole day.
Yeah.
We are consuming that this much energy. So we can just say, and my question, like the last question is, how far do you think we are from artificial general intelligence?
Oh, I mean, I really don't have answer. I'm on the path that first we have very high expectations of what human can do, and I don't. I think humans are not so advanced. So I think we can easily automate huge part of their work. I don't know if they will call it general intelligence, but many people will lose their job. And if you see some other CEO telling you that it's an opportunity, it's a huge disruption. We will see how we handle. But in the foreseeable future, I think it will be disruptive.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have some additional questions or not? Okay, Iveta, thank you so much once again for your inspiring talk. One round of applause, please.